How do you build a legacy? One day at a time, one race at a time, one lap at a time. In 2025, Niece Motorsports celebrates their own legacy made up of 10 seasons in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. The team is owned by Al Niece, a businessman and a veteran of the United States Marine Corps serving in Vietnam. Entering its 10th season, Niece Motorsports has earned 9 wins and amassed 50 top 5 finishes and over 100 top 10s. The team has made NASCAR's version of the playoffs on 5 occasions. Follow along as we take you behind the curtain and into the stories of the people who've built the team. This is Phil Gould.
Hi, I'm Phil Gould, and I'm the crew chief of the number 45 truck at Niece Motorsports. So I've been in racing my whole life, pretty much. You know, my dad was in the racing, his brother raced, and then I can remember being 4 or 5 years old and my dad taking me to the racetrack, which was Wall Stadium in New Jersey. And I just kind of fell in love with it, you know, and then as I got older, closer to my teenage years, I wanted to be involved, and I actually built the car before I was even old enough to get into the pits, and my dad drove it. And yeah, I just progressed from there, and then I raced on my own some, you know, and then I had a friend of mine, John, by the name of John Ruggiero. He moved down here. He had already gotten the job with Phil Racing, and he convinced me that it'd be a great idea for me to come too. And I didn't really have much at the time. I was living with my brother in New Jersey, and I just packed up, moved down here, and knocked on doors and found a job, and then it kind of progressed from there. Before Nice, I was with Roush a couple of years there, and then the bulk of my career I was at RCR. I was there for 12 years. Before that, I was at Everhams for 2 years, and then the very first year I worked for a very small Busch Series team at the time. It was called CTS Racing. I've pretty much done every job, really. I mean, I just started out as just a mechanic. I've done tires. I've done a little bit of everything, but kind of started as a mechanic and then worked my way up to be a front end mechanic and then a car chief, and then finally got to be a crew chief.
Before coming to Nice, what would you say was your most proud moment in your career before landing here?
I mean, it's probably just most of the wins I was a part of. You know, I got the pleasure of working for Gil Martin and Kevin Harvick drove, and we won a fair amount of races in 2010, 2009, 2010. When I worked at Everhams, we won the Brickyard 400. That's when I still went over the wall as a picture member. So that was really cool. It's probably a lot of, you know, just mostly the wins along the way, I guess.
The way that Phil come into the company, you know, I want to say it was luck, but it wasn't. We had a prior working relationship for albeit 1 year, but it was a solid 1 year. He came into Roush. We put the best team with Elliott Sadler that the company Roush felt was possible to put with Elliott. I was lucky enough to be the truck chief or car chief to do that. They brought Phil in. I didn't know Phil at all. He came in. If you're around Phil now, like, Phil don't want to micromanage. He can micromanage. I take the same stance. I don't want to, but I can. He really let me have my way. He let me run the schedule and manage it and the vehicle rotation and the flow of it. And it meant a lot to me because he respected me. And I didn't tell him, hey, you think you should run this left front spring or you should run this right rear spring. I respected him because I watched him at RCR with that 2 car, Brian Scott, run way better than it probably should have. And so I respected him. And it was someone new coming into Roush that hadn't been there 10, 15 years, right? So I wanted to learn something new from someone that was outside the mold. And we hit it off, had a decent season. You know, I think won a Dash for Cash. We didn't win a race or ran top 5 a lot, had speed. Him and I never butted heads one time that year. We stayed in touch after that. When him and Ryan Reed won races, you know, later, I text him, call him. In 2018, I needed some advice on a progressive spring and some stuff to do it. He was the first one to stop by the shop after work when I was still there working at night and talk and go over and help me out. I thought we could be a better company if I wasn't the crew chief at that time. I felt that, I mean, you gotta remember, I was checking our financials. I was making sure, I was selling sponsorship. I was working in the shop. Like, I was carrying a lot of hats because that's just how we were. We didn't have a bunch of money to hire a bunch of people. We made do with what we had. So I talked Al into it. I didn't tell Al how much I had to pay Phil. And it wasn't like it was an extraordinary amount, but for us, he was the highest paid person in the company. But if you look at what we were able to do in 2019, it was worth it. It was an investment, and we got a return on that investment.
When Cody came to me and said, look, I think I can get this as far as I can take the team. We need to get somebody in there that is good. And that was Phil. And the rest is history.
I was like, what we need is we need a crew chief that's good with vehicle dynamics, that can take this from where it's at right now. And you know, I use the phrase all the time that I built it to be a Corvette. And I know I shouldn't use this because it's not a Chevy vehicle, but Phil took it from a Corvette to maybe a Ferrari, right? And that off season, I was lucky that Junior Motorsports passed on Phil, and Phil called me and he's like, "That offer's still on the table?" I said, "Absolutely."
I first met Cody when I worked at Roush. Cody was actually my car chief when I was crew chiefing, and then we kind of met, and then, you know, that was kind of like a one-year thing, and we all scattered different directions after that year, and then Cody and I always kept in touch. And then, you know, when Roush, they pretty much shut their Xfinity teams down, and I was looking for work, and Cody called me and said, "Hey, come by and check us out, you know, see what I got going on." And I came by and we talked, and then, you know, meanwhile, I had already been talking to Junior Motorsports and thought I had a job and everything was good. And then I got a call the day after Christmas that fell through. So I called Cody and said, "Hey, I don't have nothing." And he said, "Well, come up here and talk to me again, and we'll see if we can work something out." And then when it first started, we didn't know what it was going to turn into. You know, I came and, you know, had Ross, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
And at this time, we just moved to a GMS building, and I thought we were going to have Ross in our truck. We offered him a contract to run the season, and he was, "I'll run a couple." He wasn't sure where this is going. Phil come up there. I wasn't sure who was going to drive Phil's truck. I talked this great, in my opinion, crew chief, smart guy into coming and doing this. And luckily, DC Solar's doors got blown off, and Ross needed a place to race, right?
Phil Gould is the reason we were able to take that step from competitors in the truck series to winning. Him working in the Chevy camp coming into the truck series was, I don't know, what do people say, like lightning in a bottle? Like, we captured it and we got it. And you've seen that continue on with other drivers who've been able to win and put drivers in contention to win that ultimately it hasn't worked out, but several other drivers have had chances to win because of Phil here at Niece.
Talk about the roller coaster of emotions in 2019. Obviously, there were a lot of really high highs and then some lows.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, you know, the year started and Ross was just going to run a couple races, and then we ran really well, and his Xfinity deal was not going well. And then, you know, the talk about switch, we joked about it at first. It was just a big, you know, running joke that he was going to switch. And then as races went on, it's like, oh, this might be reality. And then when he did decide to switch, you know, we had other drivers sign, and it was a little messy there for a little bit. And then once we got into sync, we were really running well. And then, you know, we got to Iowa, and, you know, we got the DQ, and then that was, you know, a blow, I guess you could say. And then, you know, especially for Al, you know, like not knowing what he was going to do. And yeah, and then we were lucky enough to bounce back and win the very next week, and kind of carry that momentum all the way to Homestead. We just fell one position short.
I remember asking him early on, like, why is the truck going to handle this truck that they built? Why is him and Cody, like, they built it, and it was truck 15. And he walks over to the right front, and he puts his finger right on the right front fender, and he goes, "Because it's going to turn left. When you ask it, this fender, the whole truck's going to go that way, to the left." And I was like, yeah, okay, heard that before. Sure, this is going to be a magic truck. And I pulled on track with it at Texas for the first race, and we were hitting the ground too hard. So I was like, well, that didn't work. They fixed it, and I go back out and practice, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is unlike anything I'd ever felt. We didn't win that race, but we were able to win Kansas, which was probably the next race with that truck. And it was just them building the body, Cody with him, but Phil, he was the difference maker.
Talk about the first win at Kansas.
Yeah, that was a really cool day. I mean, it kind of we had started running really well, and it kind of, I think maybe we were running second, like we were just going to finish second, and then I think the 52 ran out of gas, and then we won, and it was probably the most gratifying win of my career. I felt like, because coming here was a lot different than obviously the bigger teams that I worked for, and we worked really hard and saw the fruits of our labor, and it was just really gratifying.
Hermes with his winning crew chief, Phil Gould.
And it's always big for a win, but this entire team, the emotion, the work, everything you guys have put in, congratulations. What does this win mean to you in this race scene?
Oh man, it's huge. Team, Al started on it. He had a 7/16 stretch when he started. These guys and girls work their guts out. And just to see how excited they are.
The driver, Ross Chastain.
I can't even describe it. He's just amazing. Just proves what he can do when he's got something to drive. He can get shot.
Big time win. Ross Chastain is going to victory lane.
I did some interview, and I forget the analogy that I used. Yeah, this is it. And then I said, Al, when he first started, I think all he had was a 7/16 wrench, and he framed this and gave Cody and I both a 7/16 wrench. But he jokes with me all the time. He thinks we're up to about 11/16 by now.
Were you surprised to experience success so quickly at Niece?
Yes and no. Obviously Ross is a super talented driver, and he had a lot to prove at that point in his career, and I felt like I did too. I come off a couple years at Roush that were far less than what I wanted to achieve, and so my stock I felt was low, and I was really eager to prove my worth, and so was Ross, and then so was Cody building the team. And when I first came in, Cody was like, I got good trucks and we have a good driver, and he's like, I just need somebody to help me put it all together. And that meant a lot to me that he asked me and thought enough of me to be that guy. So surprised, yes, then surprised but not surprised, I guess that's the way to say it.
Just kind of talk about what that day in Iowa was like from your perspective.
I mean, I think it was a rain out. We got stuck there an extra day, and so we had to start by points, or I don't even know what they were using at that time, but we started in the back and then drove all the way to the front, won the first stage, and just dominated the race. And it was a picture perfect day as far as that goes. It was Father's Day too, I remember that. And then we were in the media center, and then we come out of the media center, and then they're like, they're gonna DQ us. And I was like, what? And then and it's pour salt on the wound, and today's rules we would have passed no problem, the things you're allowed to do, but that wasn't the case at the time, and we appealed it and lost, and I remember being Father's Day and getting to go home and see my kids, and that was about the only highlight of the day after that.
Yeah, so you left Iowa, and then you turn around and you go to Gateway the very next week.
Yep.
So let's talk about what that picture means.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the second most gratifying win. Just because, we got, when you get DQ'd, you get labeled a lot of things by the public that doesn't know any better, that we're cheaters and this and that, and then that's why we had been running so well. So, you're really eager to just go back out and say, we're going to win and pass tech. And that was a crazy race because we were not the best truck, and we got on different strategies, and it came down to the end, and we ended up getting a splash of fuel and getting the lead, and somehow managed to hang on and win the race. And it was just a lot of emotion probably after that, just to bounce back, lock ourselves right back in the playoffs, and carry on with our season.
How much has Niece Motorsports changed since you came on in 2019?
Oh, a huge change. Like when I first came on, we just had a handful of people, and I think 2018 was a bigger year. They had, a couple trucks, and things kind of went bad, and kind of starting over, and we just had a few trucks and a few people, and not enough parts to even. I think when we went to Atlanta that year, the only 4 shocks we had were the ones on the truck. And now we've grown into a massive complex where we kind of self-sufficient, build our own chassis, bodies, pit crews are in-house. It's changed a lot in a good way.
How rewarding is it to have been a part in building that?
Yeah, it's extremely rewarding. Like, I look back and, you just have a immense sense of pride that, I feel like I've been an integral part of it along the way, and keep pushing. And I've had opportunities to do other stuff, but you know, my loyalty has always been Al and Cody, and they've always been really good to me. And seeing this from where it was to where it is now, it's, you know, like I hope to spend the rest of my career here.
In regards to Phil Gould and his character, his persona, his loyalty to Niece Motorsports for has to be 7-8 years now. I don't want to say it's amazing, right? He's not a guy that bounces around. He hasn't worked at a ton of companies in racing. Myself, I mean, I worked for Bobby Dowder for 3 months for free. Worked at Roush for 10, almost 11 years, and I've been here now 10. We carry the same, we want to show up every day, be able to control our own destiny, to put our brain into full motion and engage in what we do to make something better. And I have never put Phil in a spot where he has to come in on a Monday morning and what we call in the industry the old CYA, right? Cover your ass. If we have a bad race, we talk about it, but he never has once ever felt, oh, I might get fired. This didn't go right. I don't second guess him. I have a trust and a faith in him that I have in my wife, that I have in Al Niece, that I have in Ross Chastain. Like, it works because I believe in him. And I think that's why it's lasted. He can come and go all he wants here. This place is his as much as it's mine, is how I look at it.
And then he leads the shop by example. So he's here early, he's here late. Like his trucks, he's very hands-on. He's an engineer, so he can do whatever engineers do. Look, I don't claim to know what they're punching on those laptops, but he can also bolt the truck arms in. He can mount the motor. He can weld. He does everything that needs to be done. And I think that's why he thrives here, is because Niece Motorsports allows him to touch every part of the truck, but he can also delegate now when he needs to, which he probably needs to delegate a little more. He's like, it's okay, Phil. Trust your people. Trust your people, Phil. It's okay.
How does that kind of compare? Obviously, you've been at several bigger teams. How does that, you know, the ability to affect change here, how's that kind of different than places you've been before?
It's a lot different. You know, like I worked at, you know, bigger teams, and you know, the way they're structured and then layers of management, you know, I feel like there's somebody always looking for an excuse to blame something on, where here, you know, I know Cody has my back and I have his back, and we're all trying to achieve a common goal. And, you know, sometimes you don't always do the right thing, but I think everybody realizes that, and just, you know, having somebody have your back more than somebody just laying in the weeds waiting to, you know, blame it on you or something like that, I think is huge, you know, and it allows me, I've excelled. I feel like I've done better. I've gotten to be a better crew chief by having that freedom to do my job and knowing I have support.
What has it been like to watch drivers mature and come into their own at Niece Motorsports? How much pride do you guys take in helping to develop Cup caliber talent?
I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it's been fun. It's stressful at times, but see these young kids, and that's something I think that Al and Cody have also gone against the industry grain of bringing young kids in that, you know, don't have just a big sponsor, and working with them, and moving them up and putting the funding behind them, you know, to go places. Obviously, you know, Carson, now Caden, you know, Bailey, like it's really cool, you know, to see that happen.
Man, Phil Phil's Phil. I don't know how else to describe it, right? He is so smart and so decisive. But me and him, I felt like worked really well. Just of the no outside information. Like a lot of times it just felt like it was me and him. You know, when we felt like we were right, we were confident that we were right. And it was, if I was right or he was right, or if it was his idea or it was my idea, right, we were right. It never was him or me, or it was just we were right and we went racing. So that ultimately is Phil, right? Like he's very selfless and doesn't get enough credit, I feel like, at times. And he's quick to congratulate and quick to pick up and quick to, you know, see the positives in it all, or at least, you know, sometimes he's definitely emotional when things go bad, but he's quick to just want to improve and get better. Yeah, I mean, for me, Phil meant a lot for my career of just how to go racing. I mean, who I work with now, right? Luke Lambert, Ryan Sparks on my Cup side used to work with Phil, right? So I think Phil definitely was able to lean on them and put in good words, right? But also too, you know, they were around the same people, they were around the same shop. So like they knew Phil and they knew how he worked. So it was a really good transition for me. But ultimately, I think the only thing I added to Phil's career was I gave him a lot of gray hairs because I'd stress him out a lot of times. So you're welcome, Phil.
How has Niece become your family?
I think, you know, it's just always, racing for me has always been family. When I grew up racing, you know, I did it with my friends and my brother and my dad. And then when I moved down here and I went to work for some bigger teams, it becomes less family. You're more just an employee, and you know, you separate that. And when I came to Nice, it was obviously a lot smaller, tight-knit group. It was more what I'm accustomed to, is just being family. And I think, you know, especially early on, we worked a lot of hours and days together with the same people, and you're digging and working and grinding, and you see the highs and the lows, and you know, you just become family. You know, you look after one another, and a lot of the key people are still here today. So.
Your son made his Truck Series debut with Niece Motorsports. What does that mean to you?
Oh, obviously that's tremendous. You know, that's something I'll never forget. I know he never will. And like I told him, I said, "You've hit the lottery. You just don't even know it." But it's been really cool to just, you know, everybody, you know, likes Matt and thinks a lot of his ability and me, and giving him that opportunity. And it's huge. You know, it's been stressful for me because I'm over here doing my job and watching as a dad from a distance. So that's tough to wear those hats, but it's really cool, and I appreciate it more than anything in the world. I know Matt does, and hopefully they'll get to do more.
I got to know his boys, especially LP. I see a great future with LP, but Phil is just a quiet, and he is focused. If you ever seen Phil and things are not going right, I don't know how many dents are in that pit box, but he has a passion, and I think he has a passion for the team. Well, I know he has a passion for the team.
My favorite memory with Phil Gould was victory lane at Homestead. That was so much fun, just because of everything leading up to it. We felt like there was one truck in particular that was, you know, really focused on, you know, riding the thin line of not legal, and all the other trucks around us that we were, you know, were Chevrolet was keen on, you know, making and doing and finding ways to do that. And I remember looking at Phil and saying, "We're chasing a unicorn. There's no way that thing's legal. So let's just not reinvent the wheel." And Homestead, we were horrible the year before and found a lot of new aero stuff and a lot of new improvements of where we were weak. And we went there and just spanked them. You know, I think it was 18 seconds. The second place guy got DQ'd, but it was like 18 seconds to the one that didn't get DQ'd. And you know, we won it on strategy, and that one was fun because you had to execute pit road, you had to do everything right. And that one was most fun just because of everything leading up. You know, we won Richmond, and then, you know, we were really close, and everybody started chasing the unicorn, and we stayed disciplined in what we knew and what we had. And I don't think we put any prep at Homestead even, and won that thing because we were so focused on Phoenix. And I think that was the most fun, that, you know, we just felt like we were on top of the world, me and him, of just like, this wasn't even our best, and we were the best that day.
Fun stories about Phil Gould and his time at Niece Motorsports. In 2019, due to lack of funds, we would camp at racetracks a lot. So instead of spending $4,000 or $5,000 on hotel rooms, we would get online and find a camper that we could have someone come to the track and set up and put there. It might be 2 of them, might be 3 of them at times. A lot of them, they were private owners. They give them to us to use. So it was the cheapest route possible. Well, through this, we learned a lot about making sure there's water in them, or making sure that there's heat, right? Or we have generators to run them. But what it did is it brought a lot of family camaraderie to us. So where you would leave the racetrack, you go back to the hotel, everyone kind of go their own way, and we reconvene in the morning of the racetrack. There, you walked out of the racetrack, and it was a fight for who got the hot shower first. It was who was going to get the fire going, who was cooking. It was literally a family. Like, we all took turns cooking at different tracks. We all took turns bringing firewood. I'd get grocery shopping. We put stuff on the hauler to have there, right? Talladega, I think the week before, in Martinsville. Same deal, we camped out down there, where we got advanced to the next round to get to Homestead. We had fun that night. We went down the boulevard, we come back up. We look down and someone's sleeping, quote unquote sleeping, halfway underneath the camper. And we're like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's Phil My Glass. This was a nickname we call him, Phil My Glass. And so we found chalk somewhere, and we did an outline around Phil of where he was sleeping, right? Like a dead body. So he gets up next morning, we all up, we're cooking breakfast. Phil's sitting there and he goes, what is that chalk line? And we're like, that's you, Phil? What? And I had a picture of it. So that was a good one. I've had a lot of fun with Phil. We've been close. The family.
What would you want people to know about Niece Motorsports?
I mean, I just think, just that the family aspect and how hard and what it started as, you see a lot of other owners, and I'm not knocking them, but they come in and just spend a big chunk of money and build a team and bought speed, I guess you could say. We're here, we really started out with very little and built it from nothing. And it's just, I would hope people realize that it's just a blue collar, hardworking group because of, a couple people that just really had a lot of determination to make something out of it.
What's been some of your favorite memories or moments in specific over the last 10 years? I mean,
obviously all the wins, you know what I mean? All the wins are really special. And I think just you look at our performance, we had 2019 was a really good year. 2020 we kind of dipped and fell off, and then we rallied and got back and won races in 2023, and actually no, we won in 2022 with Ross, and then 2023 a breakout year for Carson. And really, I think as of lately is as gratifying as anything, seeing how well the 44 and the 42 is starting to find some speed. And that's one thing Al used to tell me, is he didn't want to be a flash in the pants. He wanted to be one of the best truck teams in the garage. And we've seemed like we've always had one truck that performs well, and then trying to get them all to perform well. And I know that's one thing that's high on Cody, and he's asked me to help with. And now to see it's finally coming together and working like it should is gratifying as well.
Niece Motorsports is celebrating its 10th anniversary this season. Talk about where you were 10 years ago.
Gosh, 10 years ago, 2015. So that was right when I had left RCR after 12 years. I had finally got to be crew chief there for 2 years. And I had moved over to Roush, and obviously I had high expectations, and that didn't go as well as I hoped it would. And then, man, 10 years, that doesn't seem like that long ago. But just want to say thank you to all the fans and the employees for supporting Niece for these 10 years, and hopefully we'll be here for many more to come. All the drivers and all the families. This is it's a grueling schedule sometimes, and we spend a lot of time away from home. And all the wives, girlfriends, kids, just thank them for their supporting their loved one to help us go do what we need to do.